as I've known William longer than any of you, for me just to give some pointers through his life, which highlight some of his achievements and his accomplishments. As many of you know, he was born in Iran, March 30th, that's in a few days' time, 1926, in Mashhad, to missionary parents. He was the eldest of 4. My mother married twice. Her first husband died during the First World War, but she and her first husband produced 3 wonderful children, one of whom is the father of Alan here. But there were 4 others that my mother remarried and went out to the mission field with my father. So the 4 of us were born either over there or here on furlough. But William was born in Iran. And when William was 13, we actually left Iran and came to the United States, leaving father behind, because it was the mission policy that the missionaries could be separated if necessary for the sake of their families and their children. So mother brought the 4 of us to Philadelphia, established a home for us. Our father stayed in Iran and came home every 5 years. You can imagine how difficult that was for all of us concerned. A really kind of dysfunctional upbringing, I think you'd have to say now. And thankfully the mission agencies no longer have that policy, because there was a lot of difficulty with missionary families who were split up that way. Between the ages of 13 and 18, William attended 3 different schools. One in Tennessee, Macaulay School, and one in Connecticut, Choate. But before that, he'd started in Philadelphia, Germantown Friends School. When he graduated at the age of 18, he entered the Navy. He'd always loved flying, and he gained that love of flying from watching birds flying in Iran. So he had this passion for flying, and he entered the Navy. He did Navy training. He learned how to do dive bombing and electronic warfare, and he did quite an extensive training, and then got his wings at Pensacola, Florida, and joined the carrier called the Kearsarge. Went on active duty in the Caribbean and the Mediterranean, stopped in a lot of different ports in the Mediterranean. But active service ended about 3 or 4 years later when he decided to enter Princeton University, which he did as a more mature student at the age of 23. And there he gained a Bachelor of Arts in History. Now for the next 20 years, he gained 2 more degrees, one at Biblical Seminary at the close of his time at Princeton University. He went to Biblical Seminary in New York City, got a Bachelor of Sacred Theology. Then he joined the InterVarsity staff for a few years, followed by 20 months of traveling around the world to 68 different countries. He then entered Princeton Theological Seminary and gained a master's degree at Princeton Theological Seminary. So in the space of 20 years, he had gained 3 different degrees of very, very good standing. But there were 2 things that happened of great importance when he was at Princeton University. One was that he went to a camp in Canada called Campus in the Woods, where he was challenged about his Christian faith. And although he'd been a nominal Christian, suddenly his faith absolutely came alight, and he was what we would call converted. He simply came alive to Christ and gave his life to God. And from that moment onwards, as you can see, he has been a steady, solid Christian. That was pivotal for him, that experience at Campus in the Woods.
Thank you.
The other thing that was of much greater, well, I shouldn't say much greater importance to me, but it changed my life, was that when he was at Princeton, he met a man called Alan Weir, a student from Cambridge University in England, who had come over here to do research work for mathematics PhD. William invited him to come to our home in Philadelphia for a Thanksgiving meal. I was 18 at the time. That's how I met my future husband. That's how I ended up living in England and producing 4 sons, 4 very fine sons, of whom I'm very proud. And this lovely lady is a daughter-in-law, the wife of one of my 4 sons, the eldest. So those years were quite pivotal, and especially his time at Princeton with introducing Alan and me, and also having this very profound, deep spiritual experience at Campus in the Woods. His trip around the world, going to 68 countries, was colossal. He was studying, he was doing research on Christian work in a lot of the universities, and he kept meticulous notes about all his travels. He also collected a lot of artwork and crafts, which he shipped up and brought back to this country, and some of them are still in crates in his storage units and in his apartment. At the age of 40, he became president, the 3rd president of a company called Arion. And for the next 50 years, he has been president of Arion. Now, I'm not qualified really to speak about Arion's work, but my son, Scylla's husband, wrote out something for me to read, which will make sense to those who know something about aeronautical engineering. Arion wanted to combine 2 aircraft types, one that derived lift aerodynamically, like an aircraft wing, but also incorporated helium tanks for buoyant lift. If an aircraft with both these capabilities could be engineered, it would be possible to carry heavy loads for a long duration very efficiently. There was also the possibility of a radar design that would maximize surveillance capabilities. Theoretical work led to scaled models that were tested and refined until a larger scale prototype was built. Arion 26 was successfully flown by a test pilot, proving its aerodynamic capability and potential for further development. They named this revolutionary aircraft the Dynair ship. A number of contracts were awarded to Arion for further research and development of the Dynair ship concept, including works for the Defense Department. Many varied applications were demonstrated in the search for potential investors. In addition to the Dynair ship, Arion developed a second concept that also combined buoyancy and aerodynamic lift for heavy lifting applications, such as logging in remote regions. So they called this the vector rota. As its name suggests, the machine included a central helium tank for lift, encircled by rotating blades for directional control and propulsion. Now, the story of how Arion developed under William is contained in this wonderful book called The Deltoid Pumpkin Seed. There are copies of that on the display table. And recently, in the New Yorker, as recently as February, there was a very long article about the resurgence of helium-flown blimps and how the concepts that William was so involved in are now being taken on board and furthered by very large companies. So in a sense, William was before his time, and it's just such a shame to all of us who've known William that there haven't been investors to really catch the vision that William has had all these years. William presented Arion's technology at international conferences in Paris, Stockholm, London, Montreal, Vancouver. And so for 50 years, he's devoted his life to this company from his offices in Princeton. It's something to be terribly proud about as a sister, and I'm deeply proud of William and his magnificent efforts to bring forward and to see into fulfillment the vision that he's had for so long. I don't want to take up any more time, really, but I just have to say that I'm very, very fond of William, as you can imagine. I love him dearly. He is my link to the past, and I don't want anything to happen to him. He's so special to me. He's a man of great determination, of great commitment, of great perseverance, of great single-mindedness, of great and deep faith in God. And I asked him what his favorite hymn was. He said, I've got many favorite hymns, but one of my special ones is Great is Thy Faithfulness. And I just thought I would close by reading the words, which I'm sure most of you know already. Great is Thy faithfulness, O God, my Father. There's no shadow of turning with Thee. Thou changest not, Thy compassions, they fail not. As Thou hast been, Thou forever wilt be. Great is Thy faithfulness. Great is Thy faithfulness. Morning by morning new mercies I see. All I have needed, Thy hand hath provided. Great is Thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me.